So every trend looks like this in trading. You have a swing, then you have a pullback, then you have a swing, then you have a pullback. So the important thing to understand for any trader is whether or not the trend is going to continue from this point. That is what every trader wants to know. They want to know that because they want to enter the trade here so that by the time the trend goes up, they go up with it so that they can make money. So that's the goal of any trader. So in order to accurately predict whether or not the trend will continue to go up, you need to understand two very important parts about the trend. The first thing to understand in detail is the building block of a swing of a trend, this portion here. There are two things you need to understand about the swing of the trend. The first thing to understand is the types of candles that built up the trend. And the second thing to understand, where are the key levels within the trend. Then another important thing that you need to understand is pullback area of the trend. Here you need to understand the different types of pullbacks. And the second thing to understand is what are the different strengths and which pullback to choose. This is very important to get correctly because this is where you actually make a decision of whether or not you should be taking a trade. And it will also suggest to you whether or not the trend will be continuing or not. Now let's analyze these two in details, starting with the swing of the trend. So the swing itself is built up of different types of candles, which are the smaller candles, which looks like this, or the taller candles, which are very, very tall. So these different type of candles have a different meaning to the investors or traders. For example, the shorter candles or the small candles mean that the traders or investors behind that market are not very sure of the direction. So they don't invest in big amounts. They put their money bit by bit into the market. And on the other side, the taller candle means that the investors or traders are very sure of what they're doing. So they put in a lot of money. There's no hesitation at all. So which makes it a very, very powerful signal for trend continuation. Let me show you how these candles look like on the real chart. So if you look at the smaller candles here, you'll notice that they look like this on the real chart. So it makes it clear that there's no momentum at all behind these candles or behind the traders that are pushing or creating these candles. And on the other side, if you look into the taller candles, it's very clear that the traders are sure or kind of confident of the direction of this trend. So these are very, very important distinction to pay attention to. So the next thing to pay attention to on the swing is key levels. Very, very important. Let me show you what I mean. So usually, if you go to a smaller time frame, you'll notice that the market is showing a little bit of a detail of a trend. Sometimes you'll see pauses that are happening when the trend is being created. So basically, if you look into this trend, you'll notice that there is this pause that happened in this area within that swing. So if you draw a line here, that will be your key level. And we'll discuss this in detail when we discuss the pullback part of the trend. But just keep in mind that this key level becomes very, very important later on. We're going to discuss that. So the next important part that we need to discuss is the pullback. So the pullback is a very, very important area to pay attention to. After you have noticed your stronger trend, which is the trend with stronger candles or the swing with stronger candles, so the pullback should be in agreement with the swing, basically. Let me show you what I mean. So you want the pullback to not be deep. Let me show you how a deep pullback looks like. You will notice that the candles are going down in a strong manner. You don't want that kind of pullback. That means the swing was strong and the sellers also came strong on the pullback. So basically don't want at all that to be the same. You don't want that to be 50-50 at all. So this type of pullback, we call it a deep pullback. It's a pullback that you don't want. So the pullback you want to see is the pullback with candles that look like they are struggling, because that will mean that the sellers or the traders that create the pullback or are behind the pullback don't have enough confidence that the market is going to go down, and they don't invest enough or trade with volumes as if they are sure that the market will go down. So it should be something like this. So as you can see, this pullback basically looks struggling I'll show you in the real chart how this looks like. But the psychology behind this pullback is that, yes, the swing was strong here, as we can see, and the pullback is not strong, which is good. That means that the buyers that were pushing this swing here didn't close their trade, which is good. Because if they closed their trades, you will see that deeper pullback that I've shown earlier. So that's the momentum we don't need on the pullback area. We only need that momentum right here on the swing. So we should be very happy when we see this, because that means there is a potential strong trade that is coming. That means that the trend will continue. So this looks like this on the real market. As you can see that the swing itself pushed very, very strong. Sometimes it becomes one strong candle. That's how strong this whole thing can be, as you can see here. And now if we look at the pullback is almost flat, which is what we want. We don't want a steep pullback. So that's the best example on the real market that you want to look for. So when the setup lines up like this, that means the chances of trend continuation are very, very high. And I need to teach you one more thing that will make sure that you enter the trade at the correct place, because sometimes you don't know when the trend will go and stop. So you need to understand, okay, probably the trend is going to stop here. Therefore, I must look for a trade, because sometimes the trend can go forever before it can go. So we need to know what is the next high probability area where the trend will actually pause and continue. So if you remember earlier, we discussed the key level within that trend swing if you go and look at it in a smaller time frame. Now that pullback is going to be our turning point. It's going to suggest the high probability area where we should be looking for end of the pullback. For example, the pullback will be coming down from here, from the top of the swing. And this is the level or key level where you would be expecting the pullback to get some resistance and pause before it can continue going up. I will show you shortly how this looks like on the real market. But another important thing before we go to the real market that you should look for is that as the market approaches the pullback, so you need to get some clues whether the pullback is holding in that key level. And the most important clues that you will see, you will notice some longer tails of these candles as it gets closer to the key level. So you will see some rejections that are happening here. I will show you in the real market shortly. So these rejections will give you a clue whether there is some resistance that is happening on this key level. That means that there is some buyers that are waiting for a second chance to get in and go up with that trend continuation. So these wicks or tails of the candles become a very, very important clue for you. And in many cases, you will see some signals here like pin bar candlesticks. Maybe you see a candle with a long tail here. So what's important is these areas that are being rejected. That's very, very important. It shows you that, okay, there is someone strong here that is actually pushing the market up so that the trend can turn around and continue. Then they can profit that way. Let me show you how that looks like on the real chart, on the real market. So if you look on this chart example right here, you'll notice that the swing went up very strongly, with strong candles like this one here and that one. But you'll notice that also amongst that, there was a key level here, and the pullback came right straight to that key level. And notice the tails that I was referring to here of these candles, which is a sign that this key level right here is holding. That means that there are buyers that think that the market will continue going up. The trend will continue going up, basically. So once you see these tails, you must know that there's someone there. And in other cases, you will even see candlestick signals like pin bars here, inside bar, and all those signals. This is the area where you will be seeing them right here. Then the trend continued from there. Check out this next powerful video right here to learn more.